This might take us a while, yeah. I left all the doors unlocked and you said you're on your way. When you get here, don't you say a word, got no time to play.
Alright, good morning everyone. I'm headed to work and I wanted to share or talk about this on my way to work. So it's like 8:44 a.m. I was up till 3 a.m. Past 3 a.m. last night watching this documentary called PATRICE, the movie on Hulu. And first of all, my sleep schedule is way out of whack, and I'll tell you guys why. I keep taking like night naps. So yesterday I got home from work. I was cramping really bad, and I didn't get home till after like 5:30, but I ended up sleeping until about 9 or 10 p.m. I don't remember exactly what time I woke up, come to think of it, but I think it was around 10 p.m. I woke up kind of confused. Because sleeping like super late at night, it's like my body thinks that I went to bed super early. So I now get really tired at like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Like that's my actual bedtime, but then I'm waking up. And then I don't go to bed again until about 1, or really it's been closer to like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, and then have to get back up at 7:30 a.m. / 7:45 for work. So it's really disruptive to like my sleep cycle because I'm not getting a full 8-hour sleep, and I don't know what to do. But also, if I don't take my naps, I'm exhausted. I end up being exhausted because that's what happened yesterday. I just basically ended up not going to bed till like 3 a.m. and then having to get up at 7, and I went to work with like no sleep. Anyways, would not recommend. Highly would not recommend. So anyways, I had taken this nap so I wasn't tired, and I found this random documentary, and it was so eye-opening. One thing about me, y'all, I love a good documentary. And I feel like part of the reason I like docu-series like Love on the Spectrum, there was another one with people with Down syndrome that I watched. It's like a show, but I love documentaries about people with special needs because it always just shows, I feel like you can learn something from documentaries about people versus just watching a television show that's, fictional or whatever. I guess one thing I like about documentaries is that it's like real people. So anyways, this movie I randomly saw, it was like on the main page on Hulu, and I just clicked on it. Y'all, I stayed up till 3 a.m. watching this movie, cried my eyes out, because there's two main things the movie focuses on. So Patrice has a disability, and she basically is sharing her life story growing up with a disability. And at the beginning of the movie, she talks about how she found out she was different from other people when she was 6 because she went to school and all of the kids would ask her what's wrong with her, and how she got bullied and picked on. And she talks a lot about her mom, and how her and her mom had a like tumultuous relationship, and kind of it seems like they were always fighting about things, and her mom wanted to protect her at the end of the day, but she went about it in ways that maybe would come off abusive to someone who's not used to having a black parent. Me personally, I've grown up, well, I'm not saying my mom is abusive, but I just think like sometimes you recognize that with, like, you know, all of the normal kids her age in school, but that was what made her realize that she was so much different from all the other kids, and she was constantly being picked on and bullied. So she has been dating another man with a disability, and so the two problems in the show is that there's a federal law that pretty much, if a disabled person gets married, they lose their benefits and pretty much lose their way of taking care of themselves. And so she and her partner Gary are like trying to figure out, like, they want to get married, they want to have, you know, the same rights as everyone else, but if they get married, they lose their benefits. They can't even live together, or they lose their benefits. So it's like their disability and their need for Medicaid makes them, like, it's like they're being punished for getting married and having a disability, essentially, because for some reason the government said disabled people can't get their Medicaid, Medicare, SSI benefits if they're married. And then the other problem with the benefits is these people are barely surviving with how much they get in disability, but they're limited in how much they can make. They can't make any more. It's like they're forced to live at the bare minimum, and you know, if they make any more money, because she said she can't have more than $2,000 in her bank account, or she could lose her Medicaid and she could lose her SSI that she needs to survive, because most of them can't afford the medications, right? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, people with a disability, their medications often cost a lot more than the average person, and so they would literally not survive without Medicaid. And these services are like, it's like necessary for them to survive, essentially. But if they make more than $2,000 or something, I guess they can lose Medicaid. And they also are on such like a limited income, y'all. So one of the second problems was she had just bought this van. She just finished paying it off, and she works as a cross guard for a school as well, which was it was just such, like, you could tell she has such like a beautiful spirit. But anyways, she worked as a cross guard, and her van breaks down, and she's like, she has an accessible van, by the way, because her partner is also in a wheelchair, and she drives him around, takes care of him, seems like she's also like slightly his caregiver in a lot of ways. Like, you constantly see her helping them, and she's also has a disability, and she's literally talking about it's making me cry again, because it's just like, people should not have to live like this. No one should have to live like this. Some car does not know where they were going. No one should have to live like that. So basically, I did not know that being disabled people. So she talks about basically when she fundraised to buy her car the first time, because you don't make enough to really save anything. She makes barely enough to get by to afford like the bills. It's basically just like the government pays them just enough to survive, but not enough to actually live. Is pretty much how I would explain it. So she made only enough to like cover the bare minimum expenses, her housing, her food, her rent, her bills, and she does live on her own, which is amazing. And I do think, like, a lot of people would say the way her mom raised her was abusive, but I also think like the way her mom raised her is what is the reason she's able to be independent. But anyways, I don't have a lot of time. I have like 5 more minutes and I have to go inside. One sec, y'all. Okay, so cool, let's finish this real quick. So basically, the van that she has in the movies, she says it took her 3 years to pay off. She just paid it off, and it has a lot of problems. And she takes it into the shop, and they basically tell her, like, this van is at the end of its life. You know, it's basically at risk of, like, it has so many problems. It has a faulty gas line, all of these problems. They basically said, like, there's nothing you can do. Like, she has to, like, it's not drivable. And it breaks my heart, because she probably even got scammed purchasing this car that she should have never been sold. Oh my gosh, I see my friend. Anyways, she said the money she raised to get that, she started a GoFundMe. GoFundMe, according to the government, is income, and she basically ended up losing her benefits because of the income she got from a GoFundMe that she needed in order to get her vehicle. So she got penalized for that. And so she's like, she's risked losing her benefits if she makes more money, like money she needs for things to survive, she gets penalized for. And I just was like, this is such a messed up world we live in. Because it's like, like, two things I will always advocate for are the rights of people with disabilities and of children. Like, there's just no reason. Those are two populations I feel like that get abused the most, that have so many problems they have to deal with, and I just will always advocate for those two groups. Anyways, I don't have enough time to finish it, so part 2 when I get off work. Alright guys, I'm finally off of work. We are tired. We feel pretty exhausted. I'm about to put my sunglasses on because it's really actually kind of sunny out here. I got these cute little Care Bears on. Anyways, I wanted to finish my conversation from this morning. I feel like I explained why my sleep schedule is so bad, or why I always feel exhausted now. But if I don't take a nap off of work, I'm like making it worse. But then really it is, I need to take a nap that's not, and wake up before like 8. Lord, I can't even turn where I need to turn. This is crazy. So the traffic is worse, and I feel like it's not even 5. Okay, anyways, let me finish what I was talking about this morning. So the documentary I watched was about a disabled woman who was trying to get married. Basically finds out that she can't get, if she gets married, she loses her disability benefits, including her SSI and Medicare, Medicaid, which a lot of disabled people or people with disabilities need in order to afford their health care. And so basically, like, penalizing someone for being disabled is penalized if they want to get married, which should be like, oh, it's like a human right? Or, you know, the marriage should not be restricted to able-bodied individuals, or it should not impact someone who has a disabilities negatively to get married. But for some reason, the federal law makes it so that a disabled person is penalized for getting married. So that was the main issue. But during the documentary, and I guess if you guys are gonna watch it, I don't think, well, this is spoilers if you haven't watched it. So I mean, I would still say watch it. It was really good, and that was one of the reasons I stayed up till 3 a.m. But what I really liked about it is that it shows just like how hard it can be for someone with disabilities to just have like a good quality life. And I'm not saying she didn't have a good quality life, but how hard it is for them just to like survive and have their basic needs met. And it's like, it's hard enough for people who don't have disabilities to take care of themselves. And a lot of people look at it as like, oh, well, they have like a free handout for having a disability and they get all of these extra benefits. But it's actually more limiting on them because they're penalized for if they make any extra income, which they might need in order to afford. So the second major issue, and I think I kind of talked about it, was the van. She needed an accessible van. They started at about $40,000. And the first time she had raised money for it, she had done a GoFundMe, and she got penalized because the government counts a GoFundMe as income, and they kicked her off of her SSI or something. And she said she like was pretty much almost homeless because of it. And then she also couldn't get to her job as a crossing guard because she didn't have that car. So she was, she couldn't work without a vehicle, but she can't pay for a vehicle with the amount of money she was making. Like, it was impossible. So she's like thinking of things that she can do. She does a penny drive or a can drive, and she collects cans to, get the free money. And she was making maybe like $26, $60, from collecting all these cans. But it was like, it's gonna be some years before you make $50,000, which is what she needed by collecting cans. Like, if you were making maybe $100 each time, that would still be like, you would need to make $100 500 times to make $50,000. So it was really heartwarming, but also like eye-opening to like how many issues people with disabilities can face. And I also don't think like that law is fair as far as why do people with disabilities have to lose their benefits because they get married. Like, why are they being penalized for being married? Like, why did the federal government even make that a law to begin with? Like, two disabled people can't be married and get benefits and have their same disability benefits they had before. And it basically is just like, oh, this is either to deter people from getting married or because you believe disabled people shouldn't be getting married, and if they get married, that somehow means they're less disabled. Like, I don't know. It's just it was very eye-opening. And then, so the happy part of the documentary, I guess, is, and this is the part where I happy cried, because she had been trying so hard to raise money. Like, she doesn't have extra money. They don't have like any extra money to put towards, buying a car, because literally it's like their disability gives them the bare minimum that they need to survive. There's nothing really extra. And you know what? It's like, it's a sad reality, I think, too, that even if you're just someone who's living paycheck to paycheck, like I used to be, it's just like you never having enough money left over for anything. It's just like, if one expensive bill comes in, you're like SOL and can't afford it. So it's just like, definitely something I could relate to for that part. Like, she was like, I don't know how I'm gonna afford like a new car, and especially she needs a wheelchair accessible vehicle, which is even more expensive. Like, my current car, y'all, that I've had for I want to say I bought this in 2023 for a little over a year. This car was $6,000, and the main reason I was able to afford it, and I paid for it in full with cash, it's a 2014 car, so it's 10 years old, and I've had to pay a lot of money in repairs thus far, and break down. Like, I'm not going to get a new car until it's absolutely necessary for me to get a new car. And that was kind of the case with my old car, but my dad paid money to get it fixed. He probably paid like $3,000 to get that the Honda Civic that I had been driving fixed. But anyways, she ends up finding a nonprofit that raises funds on behalf of people with disabilities, so that they get the money, so it doesn't count as income for the person with the disability. It's not counted against them as income. And so she was able to raise the $50,000. She actually raised more, and like when you see her reaction, she's like, when she sees that she made the amount of money she needed, she's like in shock, like she can't believe she made it. And it was one of the like best parts of the movie. But overall, in general, just watching it, like, you can see how much, like, what a painful life she's lived. And it's not really just because of her having a disability. Like, she was in and out of mental hospitals and things like that. And you can tell she endured some trauma being there. She's like, I never want to go back. Like, she got institutionalized, basically. And as a child and as an adult. And, you know, I feel like mental hospitals and institutions have, like, create a lot of trauma in people. And it's like they often do more harm than good, because, you know, a lot of people, and this is why I said, like, people that I'm always going to advocate for, people with special needs and children, because they can't, a lot of times they're not able to advocate for themselves the same way an able-bodied person or just an adult. Like, a child has to live with an adult. And those specific populations, I work with disabled, or I should say special needs children, because I shouldn't say they're not all disabled, but I work with special needs children, right? And especially the ones who are nonverbal. They can't advocate for themselves. If someone was hurting or causing harm to one of those children, they can't advocate for themselves. They can't tell anyone. And so we learn in, like, our training how kids with special needs or disabilities are one of the highest risks for abuse, because people know they could pretty much get away with it. And unfortunately, it's a very, very sad reality for a lot of people with disabilities as well and special needs to be abused, oftentimes by caregivers as well, because the stress of caregiving is a big stressor. And a lot of full-time caregivers, they get frustrated caring for certain said individuals, and that frustration turns sometimes into abuse. And so it is also partially because of, you know, being a caregiver is oftentimes, it's a hard job, and it's often, you know, can be stressful and overwhelming, especially if you're doing that 24/7, and especially when a family member is a caregiver 24/7, that puts a lot of stress on them as a person. I have firsthand experience. I took care of my grandmother when she was 88, 89, for about 3 to 4 months. Almost, well, it was 24/7, and then I had to, like, beg to have at least one day off a week to myself, because it was a lot. It was very, very hard and challenging on me. So anyways, it just tells her whole story. And I like how they enact it with, like, she, like, does, like, these little monologues in between, sharing, you know, other tidbits about her life. You know, her mom had died, and then, you know, all the family that she had left were siblings. And she talks about, you know, she really just seems like such an awesome person, a really good friend to so many people. Like, part of the video shows her like just checking up on her friend, and her friend is so appreciative. She's like, you know, I don't have a lot of friends who check on me. She's like, well, yeah, like I'm gonna check on you and just make sure you're okay. Like, just one of those people that has like a genuine good heart. So anyways, it was a really good documentary. I stayed up watching it, and now I just feel very much y'all, there's like a political war going on in my in my dad's neighborhood. There's like 2 houses, well, there's houses campaigning, right, for whoever they want to win, and there's people right across the street from each other who are supporting opposing candidates. I'm like, oh goodness, you know. Politics are crazy sometimes when you really think about it. But anyways, I just wanted to share my thoughts on it. It definitely made me realize, like, you know, be grateful for a lot of things you have, but also, like, we should all, I feel like it's just so unfair. And there's so many issues people face that you would never know. You never know about. So that's one of the reasons I do like watching documentaries, because they're eye-opening. Like, who would have thought that, like, most people wouldn't have even known that this was an issue, but for watching it, because at the end of the day, it's an issue that doesn't affect most people, but it's also an issue that shouldn't exist for someone who's already, you know, disabled, already has, you know, faces a lot of challenges, and now, like, they can't even get married without being penalized and without risking not being able to have health care and be able to afford to like live. It's just like, why add an extra layer of stress for someone? And I feel like it's a bill that so many people would support. And she was like, it would cost hundreds of millions of dollars for this to get passed. Why? Because they have to spend money lobbying. And it's just like, government, even our government is ran like a business. Like, why does it cost hundreds of millions of dollars for someone to have the right to get married? Why can't that just be like passed simply, or even just an executive order? I don't know. Obviously, I probably need to go back to like government and understand all the stuff that goes into it. But anyways, I just feel like how our government is run is not really very, what's the word? I know what it is and I can't think. It starts with an E. Not expeditiously. I can't think of the word right now. But basically, it's not run to function exceptionally. It's like very, you know, things in government, when you really need something, they take forever. And my sister was telling me it's partially designed that way on purpose, so that like they can't make changes super quick in the government, but also it just makes it harder for people to get the things that they need. Like, it could be years before they finally are able to get married without having to risk losing their benefits. So they end up having like a commitment ceremony in lieu of a wedding, but it's just like, it's just not good enough. They deserve to be able to get married without having to jump through, without having to worry about losing their benefits. Like, common sense, in my opinion, for any decent person. All right, that's it, guys.